What is going on, you guys? My name is John. If you haven't followed my channel just yet, then stay tuned. There's a lot of valuable content, and really what my emphasis on this page is motivation, mindset, talking about my journey as a coach, and then also talking about how my processes work with my clients. So if you're somebody that wants to just learn free value, check out my page because I'm going to be posting nutrition, training, mindset, all of these sorts of things. And in the scenario that you're like, hey, I think that I do want to learn a little bit more about how your coaching process works, I do have the link below. You can click there to book a free call with me. That strategy call is time for us to dive deep into your goals, your current challenges when it comes to fitness, nutrition, mindset. And if I feel like, hey, I can help you out, then I'll explain what my coaching process looks like. And if not, then you're still in a good spot, man. Like, you get a free consultation from it and really just feedback call. So if you are interested, check the link up below. But I want to dive right into this, and really, again, I want to talk about a few key principles that I've used over the span of the past 10-12 years. And I'm saying 10-12 years because I started 12 years ago, but I had some ups and downs in my cycle, you could say, right, where I was working out and then maybe I didn't work out for a few months because I had a sport commitment, right? But really, it's been over 10 years that I've been consistently in the gym training, prioritizing my nutrition. And in that process, I've amassed a lot of, different skills. And that's what I want to talk about to you guys, because I think a lot of you guys could gain some of these skills if you start implementing fitness into your own lifestyle. And if you're already implementing fitness, that's great. But I think that diving deeper into it and really making it more of an emphasis in your lifestyle will have far more rewards than just the physical benefits. So now let's dive right in. So again, when I was 13, 14, that's really when I started working out, again, to get into sports. And then as I got later into high school, my skill set in those sports increased because I was putting a lot of work in. But what I think made a bigger difference was my confidence, right? So I was putting on muscle mass and I was getting stronger. And because of that, I was boxing out people that were 4 or 5 inches taller than me, 100 pounds heavier than me. Whether or not that's all muscle, it's still tough, right? So you're with these bigger dudes, and now I'm in a spot where, hey, like, I actually have a lot more strength than I used to, and now I can use that, but also the confidence increases, right? So I think that as you start to switch your perception to I am this type of individual, you start to just believe in yourself more. And I think that because I started working out and taking these daily actions, that led to me being in a game, for example, on the basketball court, not worried about going up against a taller defender or not worried about getting my shot blocked, because I'm like, bro, I'm already in the gym, I'm already confident, and this is just leading over into my sports skills. And I already know too, bro, I'm working out way more than probably my opponent is, and so you cannot guard me. And even if you can, you're gonna have a tougher time because I'm faster, stronger. And it's not I don't say that in a way of I'm better than you, but I'm simply just out grinding you. And I know for a fact I don't even need to know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing is far more than the average person because, like, I'm obsessing over this, right? And so that's kind of in a nutshell what my sports life looked like. I always was just, I'm going to put everything into this, like nobody is outworking me. And so what I noticed as I got older and older is there are certain avenues in life that those characteristics of never quitting, of always pushing through, there are certain, I think with any avenue of life, but especially with a few certain things, there are a few certain things in life where if you have that mindset, that outlook, you will never fail. You have zero chance of failing. You have 100% chance of guaranteeing success if you think this way. And so I noticed that with sports, even going to the local YMCA, I couldn't just go and shoot around. Even in gym class, I remember I would always want to go hard. And part of that is like I couldn't hold myself back, in a sense. I'm like, I just need to take that next step. Like, I need to, be the best in this field. And so when I started to understand that in the gym, especially, if I'm applying that mindset of, if I'm in the gym day over day and I'm eating the right amount of foods, I will never fail. I will continue to gain muscle mass. I will continue to stay lean. And over the span of time, that just started to happen. Now, when I started off, there were people lifting heavier weights than me that had been working out less than me. And of course, some people might be like that whatever, I'm going to compare myself to them. I did that for a certain period of time, but after a while I was like, I'm doing this for myself and I'm just going to play the long game. And now I kept the weight on the lower to medium side, and I really emphasized good technique, higher reps, right? So I'm doing sets of 10, 12, 15 at a bare minimum, upwards of 20 reps, 3, 4, maybe 5 sets, and I'm slowing down the tension on these exercises. And I'm just noticing, wow, my biceps are really popping from these curls, and I'm using 27.5 pounds for 17 very solid reps. Why is that person next to me doing 47 pounds for 12 reps with half-assed form, and their arms aren't really growing? Like, I always thought that way, maybe I am doing something right. And now when it came to, for example, same thing with like legs, I always noticed if I squatted sets of, I don't know, 5, 6, 8, my legs would just get super sore, super fatigued. My lower back would hurt. And so obviously a lot of these things are things that you learn and you maneuver and you get better with time. But I just started to realize maybe this style of training of slamming heavy weights, like sort of thing, maybe that's not for me. And maybe that's actually doing far worse than good for me, because I'm putting my body maybe into worse off of a hole and I can't recover from these things. And that's ultimately what happened the first few years of my fitness. I was in the gym, no word of an exaggeration, 12 or 13 exercises for 3 or 4 sets. That is insane to a lot of people. I don't think it's insane, because when I hear of people doing 4 exercises and being out of the gym, I'm like, that's all you did? Now, obviously, as you go along, you learn things, you can do things more efficiently. So now I'm at a point where I can do 3, 4, or 5 exercises and get a pretty good workout in. But if I was looking to optimize muscle growth, I would be doing everything in my power. So I would literally do as many exercises as possible, as many sets as possible, as many reps as possible. I would keep a rest time low, and I would just try my best with nutrition. I was never perfect with nutrition, but I would always try to get in the foods I felt good with. And I noticed I would just, repeat those foods, right? And so I think what I learned overall that period of time is the discipline of knowing that as long as you never quit, as long as you keep going, no matter the strategy, you will win. And so over the span of all these years, I've learned so much in terms of how to properly move, right? And how to prevent injuries and all of these sorts of things, and what's better than another, and what's a better option that might give me more bang for my buck than the other. But what I think really compounded over all these years is just the simple fact of going, day after day after day. And now, as I was getting into a point later in my life where I started to, dive deep into what do I want to do with my career. Don't mind my squeaking chair. I'm sorry about that. So as I got into a period where I'm like, hey, what do I want to do with my life? Fitness has always been a passion of mine. Now I'm at a point where people are asking me, hey, can you make me a meal plan? Can you help me with my nutrition? Can you make me a workout program? I'm like, sure, here you go. And I'm helping people out, and I'm having people tell me things like, hey, you should start a fitness clothing brand. You should start training people, personal training. You should start a fitness merch or some sort of meal prep service. Like, you should do these things. And then I start also hearing these people say, you should be a motivational speaker, or as cringy as it sounds, people would always say that, and they still do. You should be a motivational speaker, or, I can see you doing this, that, and the third one day. And I always knew in the back of my mind that I had something that I wanted to do with fitness, but I didn't know exactly what. And because of the discipline that I've gained throughout the fitness of all these years, that's allowed me to discipline myself in other avenues. And because of that, I've been able to find, not 100% because I'm not quite there yet, but closer to my true passion, right? And so I always knew that fitness was something that I wanted to help people with. I always knew that I wanted to do this long term for the rest of my life. I always knew that if I could help make people results, make people feel confident like the way that I didn't when I was younger, these would be things that would be fulfilling to me and would give me internal validation. Like I'm helping people out, right? And so as I went through those years, all of the times where, I didn't have parties to go to, not that I necessarily wanted to, but I didn't always get invited to these sorts of events. And, I didn't have certain family members around that maybe I wanted at the time. I had fitness as that outlet, and that was my way of putting, my ideas and my thoughts and my pain and struggle out there into the world without negatively doing so. And so it would get to a point where I would go to the gym twice a day just for those reasons. And so I had to almost step back in a sense, because I'm like, this is so good for me. And this helps me so much. This is like literally changing my life. I want to devote my life to it. And so from that point, I started to, really take this a little bit more seriously. And then I started to get into some of the coaching. I went down a couple avenues of fitness and health sciences and different career paths that were in the fitness realm, but ultimately weren't for me. And then I came upon in-person personal training, and that gave me a broader sense of what I could do with fitness. While I was there, the experiences I made, some of the connections I made, allowed me to start to take the next steps towards where I wanted to be. And that allowed me to transition into becoming an online coach, where now I'm at the point I'm coaching my clients online from the comfort of my home. And that is just something that I'm nowhere near where I want to be long term. But the fact that I've taken that step, I've taken the step away from a W-2 job. I've taken the step away from a secure paycheck, secure. And I put that in quotes because nothing is secure. If you don't show up to work next week, you're not getting your paycheck. And I know that seems stupid to some people, but like, if all of a sudden something happened with your job, and you got laid off, you have 2 more weeks probably of work at most. And then you probably have one more final paycheck after that, 2 weeks following. And not saying it's that way for everybody, but that itself is a risk. So when you start to understand what risk you're more adverse to taking, which risk you want to take more, that allows you to transcend. So after getting into the in-person setting and, diving deep into what I liked and what I didn't, one thing I really liked was, helping people. That was always out of all of the clients, the one thing that I always felt, and I have goosebumps, as you probably can't see it, but I have goosebumps right now as I say this. The one thing that everything always comes down to is helping people feel better. And so whether that was, a client telling me, hey, this is the only 6 o'clock in the morning is the only time I can work out in the morning because I feel self-conscious about other people in the gym. That I took that and I was like, okay, I'm going to make the sacrifice. Even though I have a 9 o'clock client the next day, I'm going to sacrifice my own health because this client, he needs my help. And so I'm going to help him out. And so I had that style of client. And then I had somebody that maybe, they're not super motivated. And because of that, I dive deep and I find out there's some limiting beliefs maybe that they're holding on to inside that's making them not believe it's possible. And so that, for example, would be another client where it's, hey, why aren't you achieving the goals? Part of it is the mental, and that's a big part of it. So those are just a couple examples of clients I've worked with, but across all of them, each and every single one, it always comes down to, finding confidence, and also that's what they were looking for, the confidence itself and that change that will allow them to become a better version of themselves. And what I always found was giving them a solution, or at least attempting to give them the best solution, or, even just giving them some questions to think about to allow them to change their perspective. That gave me a sense of I was helping that client. And I also got feedback, right? Like these clients are telling me, hey, I'm feeling better, I'm moving better, I'm looking better, I'm down weight on the scale, muscle mass is up. We go in the InBody, which is our scale, and we see, hey, muscle mass is increasing, body fat is down, right? So these sorts of things are all good feelings. But what I started to find was that I didn't want to spend 16, 18-hour days in the gym like I was doing for a lot of those days, because I had morning clients and I had evening clients, and I wanted to be able to help as many people as possible. And I did that at the cost of, putting my own health on kind of the back burner. And what I think is putting your own health on the back burner, especially as a coach, that makes it so that your brain's not operating your best. You're not thinking as optimistically positive as you could be. Your workouts aren't in there, and you're kind of just in this space where, you're not your best self. And whenever you're not your best self, you're never going to be your best self for somebody else, right? It all starts inside. And I started to realize there are ways of coaching clients where I can help a ton of people without having to sacrifice, my mental well-being, without having to sleep 3, 4 nights, 3, 4 hours a night, and then drive right back to, an hour drive to get back to work. Like, I knew there was a better way. And then I started to, you know, just read, listen to things, talk to people, and just think. Really, like, having thoughts is, I think, underrated. You need to just have quiet time where you can think and maybe even talk out loud at times to get your points across and decipher whether or not that's actually a valid reason. And so during that time, I realized, hey, this is where I want the future of my life to go. I want to start coaching clients online because I know if I can coach clients online, then I get a lot of my time back, but also I'm able to prioritize my health and give the most to my clients, give them the best results. And I also know that with the in-person setting, there's so many clients that aren't making the results they want because I can't help them with their nutrition as much as I can with this setting now. And the mindset, the accountability, I can't really do that so much. I only have 1 hour in person and we're working out, right? So now I'm taking potential time away from the workout if we're doing these things. And so I started to find that when I got a few clients in the door, these clients are making far better results. And then those clients were giving me good feedback. And so from that point, I decided I'm just going to go more on the side of the online coaching and just, keep my current in-person clients. And then it got to a point where I was like, hey man, now is the time, take the leap. And so I jumped all in, basically left the gym, knowing that, like, hey, I'm going to have to build my client base all back up from scratch. But this is a stepping stone I'm taking now because it's going to allow me to propel my life in the direction I want further down the line. And so I had these thoughts, and I actually heard other coaches in the space say this. And so hearing them say it also gave me some insight. And I was like, okay, this is the good move to take. The longer that I was at the in-person job, the further I was from growing this online business. And I always looked at it as, oh, I'm getting the skills and whatnot in person, but it's so much different. And granted, I learned so much more about anatomy and biomechanics and how the body moves and these sorts of things. And I built so many relationships. But at the end of the day, I can do all of this from my computer and right from my home. And I'm saving the clients money. I'm saving them time. And I'm giving them just a step-by-step blueprint on how to achieve their ideal physique. And that's ultimately what it is. And so I started to notice, hey, I'm honestly doing these clients in person a disservice by not giving them everything they deserve. And I started to feel, when I say that, I was giving them everything that they were paying for to the gym, right? So the gym would pay they would pay the gym, and the gym would pay me my small percentage, right? And I'm grateful for everything, but these sorts of things just started to make me realize, like, hey, I'm undervalued here, and I could be giving a lot more value. And so I really took that leap, and I started to dive deeper into nutrition. After I got my nutrition certification, these things really started to stick with me and bring me fulfillment. And one thing in specific is really that the habit implementation. That's something that I got a lot of from my nutrition coaching, and that's something that I apply directly with my clients. Is let's implement these habits. It's not as simple as just eat this meal plan, follow these foods. It's like, no, we need to implement these things and have it become who you are as a person. And eventually, kind of like how I'm saying, after the past 10, 12 years, these things just stick with you. It's the exact same way. And so I think that back to my original point, getting to the gym allows for that discipline, and it also allows you to have courage, right? So when you're going into the gym and you're not sure how to properly do an exercise, I think it's helpful to have an idea. But what I'm getting at is, if you don't know what you're doing, or you're embarrassed in the gym and there are people there, or for example, myself in the past, I'm recording my videos because I want to put it on my training program page, right? And on my training app, and I'm having thoughts about what if these people, think whatever in the gym. When you override that and you still do that task anyways, right? You still work out in the gym, even though you're maybe self-conscious, or you still record the video because it's going to help my coaching clients. And I don't care what these other people think if they're negative thoughts, right? When you start to have these things, you're building up more and more of that courage, and that courage you can use in other avenues of life. So when I tell you, like it took courage to leave my job, bro. It took all the courage in the world. I had to go from, and I shouldn't say had, I got to. I was able to go from trading, a lot of my time and energy, and more so mental energy. I felt like this wasn't where I was long term, and where the gym was and where I was, we just had different kind of mindsets in terms of long term growth. And of course, it's a corporate company. There's only so much I can do there, and so I just started to say, hey, like now's the time. I took the risk. I went on a limb, and ultimately, those are habits that have allowed me to keep pushing forward, right? And simply by getting into the gym when I was young, even though it wasn't easy, I built up the consistency, I built up the discipline, and I also built up the feeling of accepting the suck when it sucks, when your body hurts, or when you don't get a good workout, or when you're plateauing for a short period of time, or certain things like that, and you still go anyways. This is just like how it is in business. When you start your own business, you might have a very good month. You made a lot of money. That's great. Round of applause. But then maybe 2 weeks later, you're kind of stagnating. The reason you're stagnating is because you got comfortable. Like you got comfortable, you stopped putting in the work, and now your business is slowing down because of it. And so maybe you have a good month, but then you have that down month. Now, it's in that time where a lot of people, they think, this is not for me. I'm going back to something else. I've already told myself time and time over again, I'm not working for another job again. And so when you start to embody who the individual is you want to become, life just starts to come in the ways you want it. And so when I started to literally identify myself as an online coach, I work for myself, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm creating this long-term vision because I know that the coaching is a stepping stone to where I want to leave an impression on the community, the people around me, my family. And so taking that leap, I wouldn't have been able to do that if I wasn't into fitness. Number one, obviously, I would have not probably been a trainer, but most importantly, I don't think I would have had the courage or the mindset to be like, hey, I could do this, right? And when you start to put two and two together, these are just tasks, these are just skills just applied to different areas of your life. So if you were disciplined in your relationships, right, like you were loyal, like you tell the truth, you're honest, these things carry over into business, right? So you're going to be attracting these sorts of clients, right? And so if you are disciplining yourself in the gym, it's going to be far easier to discipline yourself when it comes to eating the right foods for your goals. If you're disciplining yourself to save money, it's going to be far easier, to save money, as simple as it sounds. And so a lot of these things, they carry over. But I think that starting fitness, a lot of times people look at the end outcome. They look at, I'm going to do this for X number of days, and I'm going to achieve this shredded six-pack. And it happens. It literally happens that way sometimes. But a lot of times we don't get there as quickly as we'd like, and we give up, we stop. And other times we get there in that intended time, and then we're like, wow, that was easy. I don't need to grind that hard, blah, blah, blah. You go on. Next thing you know, you look back and you're like, wow, I was in great shape. Imagine if I could get back to that point. Bro, I've been at that point. When I was in that in-person setting and I was working 70, 80, 90-hour weeks, bro, not like barely eating, barely sleeping, not working out, I started to run into all these sorts of things. Joint pain, which just really like put my mindset down. Because I was on my feet 8, 10, 12 sessions a day, all an hour long, I was just running into issues that I hadn't otherwise dealt with in the past. And the fact that I didn't have any other outlet to put into, this energy, I wasn't working out because my body was just in pain. And that was the first time ever in my life that I experienced that. And it really was because I was forcing myself to live a lifestyle and to do things that ultimately weren't serving my greater self. And I knew that I want to create this online space in this community where I can help far more people and do my own thing. And yeah, I really started to put, working that job at the top of my priorities. And that is something that I highly advise not to do, because you want at the top of your priorities to be yourself, your personal development, your growth, your health, and how you're feeling. Because if all of those are in check, then your business is succeeding, your relationships are doing well, all of these things are improving. And I think that if you can start with something like fitness, you'll notice how much of an impact it will make on your life. And so, taking these risks ultimately comes down to, do you have the courage? Are you comfortable, with the adversity and what people have to say? And also, how long can you stand the storm? So a lot of people that they take the risk, right? And then they do it for a month, they do it for 2 months. But can you do it for a year? Can you do it for 2 years? Can you do it for 10 years? And that right there probably scares a lot of people. 10 years, it's a long time. But if we can start to look at things in a 10-year span rather than a 1-year span, the test becomes that much easier. And it doesn't take you 10 years to get in shape. It doesn't. It takes a few months to maybe a year. But if you start now, 10 years from now, you're going to be in phenomenal shape all the time, and you just keep this physique. See, I think a lot of people, they do a 90-day blitz per se, or they do a 6-month grind, and they get in tip-top shape. And then they have these pictures from this trip when they went to Aruba, and they look back on it, and they were like, damn, I was at like 12% body fat back then. That was like cool. But then like they look back and it's like, bro, why aren't you in that space now? Did you really achieve that physique just to have that picture and that one-time experience? Or did you start that journey so that your energy could be better, so your confidence would be up, so that you feel better about yourself, so that you're, performing better in work and relationships and all these sorts of things, and ultimately achieving your highest self? If we're maxed out in our capabilities, of course our highest self is accomplished, right? So you're telling me that somebody that's in the best shape of their life is not performing well with their brain function and their relationships and their business and their career? Of course, because the driving force, their body is prioritized, and that's the first thing. Their health, physical, mental, spiritual, right? Like you're tying that in, and just because you're taking that first step. And I think that if you can take a step in that direction, then you end up looking back and being in awe of really where you are. So find something that you can find that discipline through, find that courage through, find these skills through, because at the other side of it, at the end of the tunnel, you have achieved that goal, yes. But most importantly, you've achieved all of these skills and tools and this knowledge. And these are templates now. You can use these templates for other avenues of life. So for example, if you know what it took to get you from point A to Z, step by step to get you into shape, now you can help other people with that. Now you can continue doing that process to get into even better shape, right? And same thing with business, right? If you learn how to develop, build, and scale a business, now you can actually start to help people. And so that's ultimately my thing is, I've gone from working jobs, I've gone from being, struggling financially to a point where now I'm doing my own thing and I'm making good income from it. But where, again, my long-term vision is how can I do this at scale so that I can really take my life to the next step? And how can I get to a point where now that my business is maximized, I can help all of my family, I can help my friends, I can help people that are in these tough circumstances, get them out of it, and also give them a roadmap to improve. And so these are all things that I would have found helpful growing up. Having a step-by-step blueprint on how to build your business, having a step-by-step blueprint on how to build your physique, how to stay lean, how to build muscle mass, how to keep your mindset sharp, which is crucial above all else. If you don't have the right mindset, it's going to be very, very challenging and probably impossible to push through. You have to continue every single day to tell yourself, no matter how I feel, I'm going to take that next step. I'm going to get better today. It might not be great, it might not be easy, but I'm getting better today. And maybe you have 3, 4, 5 bad things that go wrong in the day, but you don't let it affect you, and you know that, hey, those 4 or 5 things are learning lessons, because come 6, 7, 8, those next couple are going to be far easier. And I have that experience now. I have the confidence of just going through it. And ultimately, bravery, courage really is, it's not ever going to be at a point where I feel good, I feel nice and relaxed. Now I can just go and do that task. No, it's always going to feel, you're always going to feel nervous and scared and not know what to do every single time. But you do it anyways, and because of that, you can do these far larger goals, right? And also set the bar high for yourself. I think that a lot of times people say, hey, be realistic. Bro, do you know how many times people told me when I was growing up, be realistic, take a day off from the gym, you know, whatever, it's not going to hurt you. When it comes to nutrition, of course, yeah, one meal's not going to hurt you, but same thing with the workout, but you're instilling discipline. You're choosing to tell yourself, I'm putting my future best version of myself first at this current moment because I care about my long-term vision, and I also, care about myself, right? And I'm not going to self-sabotage by doing something that feels good in the moment for pleasure. I'm going to think more long-term. And so I think if you guys can find that task that allows you to, find that discipline, I say it's fitness. If you guys can find that in your life, whether that be strength training or cardio, I think any of that, even the sport, is helpful. But most importantly, in the gym, you're going in there week over week, training muscle groups that you probably haven't trained before, or training muscle groups that maybe are weak. And you're improving them, you're getting stronger, you're lifting weight, you're seeing that weight go up on the scale, you're seeing your body fat drop, and you're noticing how much change actually is possible. And the next time you walk out of the gym, spend the next 10 minutes either sitting in your car, just thinking, or I don't know, whenever you leave the gym, spend the next 10 minutes and just be super aware of where you are and how your thought patterns are and how you feel, and then dive into some work. I'm telling you, that will be a staple in really excelling you guys. I think that if you get into that mental headspace in the gym, and then you go right into whatever it is that's a challenging task, you're going to just have far less friction with that, and you're going to have better chances of doing well because you've primed your brain, you've primed your body, and now it's time. So stay tuned for more content like this. But boys, I want you guys to know, and ladies, any of you that are watching, I want you to know that if you can start with a simple task such as fitness, it will carry over into other avenues of your life. And it seems very cliche, but a lot of the things that I'm learning, right? Like a lot of the success that I've had in my entrepreneurial business, my journey, a lot of the success I've had from my finances thus far, a lot of the success of how to structure my business, how to cultivate better relationships, these sorts of things, they have been at the extent of, or because of me getting into the gym and prioritizing my own health. And in the times that I'm stepping away from that, and in the times in the past where I've stepped away from my own fitness and I've, been maybe on a vacation with family and said, hey, I'm not going to prioritize my health this week because I'm going to spend time with family. Those times I always felt worse. I always was in a worse off headspace, and I always was probably most distant from my family. Now, those times where I chose to go on vacation with my family, wake up and just do a quick workout before the family was up, those were always the times where I got the most from it because I started my day with that difficult task, and that set the tone for the rest of my day. And so I set the tone for the rest of my day, and now I know that I already got that done, and I can kind of just relax. Now, when you're not on vacation, if you start your workout first thing in the morning, then you have the whole day to work. You have the whole day to do the things you need to do. And so you need to figure out what those tasks are. But just know that if you have somewhere you want to go, it's just a roadmap of steps to follow, and finding out those steps are extremely important. When you find them out, you can start to take the steps, but you don't know which step to take if you don't know what the step is. So find out what the steps are, then take the first step, and then from there, transition. And I think fitness is something that will help you guys start to unravel that and uncover what that avenue is in your life. And at a bare minimum, you're getting in better shape, and that's increasing your confidence, that's increasing your discipline, and that's making you take more risks. And the more risks that you take lead to higher rewards, because if you take more risks, then you end up taking more risks because of that. If you take a bunch of risks, you're going to be less scared to take the next risk, and then you take new ones, and eventually you take large risks, right? Like, you don't take small risks to win big. You take big risks, and you know, hey, I'm going all in on this thing. And at the other side of that is success. So take that first step